So we're going to start talking about the extension sequences. Now that we've got the high to high, low to low set up, we're going to start thinking about the sequencing in general. And so what happens next? Well, so if you think about what we talked about last time with the high to high, low to low, you give yourself a clean 50% retracement. You then give yourself a nice run up to the negative 23.6. Come back. And from here, we can start to build out our sequencing. So we come back, test our 61.8, and then push well out of this zone. So take a mental picture of this, because I'm going to clear this off just so that there's no confusion about what's happening. And from what we've learned, an extension sequence, a high to high, low to low, will be your high of this leg up to your new high. Now, this is where extension sequencing starts to really take shape. This, for me, this first test right here, this is what's called an observational test for me, most times. If I've had an exceptionally good week and I'm willing to risk a bit, or if I've got some additional confluence and it's really making me comfortable with the entry, then I might consider an entry here. But what I'm looking for and why this is observational is this first test to establish is probably a 50-50 shot that this is going to hold. I didn't want to do that. It's probably a 50-50 shot that this is going to hold. But once we get up here, what that now gives us is the opportunity to start continuously pulling with the same anchor, right? So it's called same anchor, new high in this instance, where if we start to come out of this zone, we can now continuously leverage this same anchor. And you see the entry doesn't change much. And in fact, it gives us a little bit of extra confluence here. But we continuously pull this anchor up until this sequence gets exhausted. Or we keep the same anchor and pull the high up until this sequence gets exhausted. So now I'm looking at an entry here. And what this really benefits us the most with is we've got a 3-point spread right here. That's it. This is very tight. So basically you're nestling your stop loss down below, right? Your brackets will do this for you, but your stop loss will be below this zone right here. And so you enter at the 50 just like the algorithms. This is why this works, right? You've identified a mathematical edge in the market, and you're giving yourself a very safe entry. So every time when you come back down after the observational test, for me, when I'm looking at sequences that are taking place, every time that we come down and test the 50, I'm entering at the 50. My stop loss will almost always be down below the 61.8. And then you come up and push to this zone, fill the negative 23.6, you come out. The minute you touch that, you come out. And if we hold this negative 23.6 and start to drift down, you guessed it, we pull from the same anchor to the new high. And then from there, if we come down here, and then we pop up and do the same thing, then we just continuously pull our new high up, right? So same anchor, came up to this spot, new high. But that's not, eventually these sequences are going to exhaust themselves. And either they're going to dip lower or they're going to pull up high, right? That's okay. That's all still a part of the same sequence. So let's say, for instance, we drop down and we blow past this zone right here. Well, what do? You look for the next lowest retracement, right? Or the next lowest anchor. So you pull your anchor down. Now, keep in mind, we've already had a clean 50 and we're part of the same sequence. So let's say we come down and we test the 61.8 of this zone. And then we blow straight up. While it may not seem that we're still in a clean sequence, we are, because this kicked us off and we haven't broken out of anything that would be an invalid fib. So from here, you can grab your high and pull it up and do it all over again. Now let's say that that doesn't happen. All right, let's say that instead, from here, we do this. Well, what's happening now is we're just iterating our extension up, right? There's clearly, what this is measuring is the bullish pressure kind of waning out, right? And all of the, when you see something like this, right? A slow trickle up on the Dow, right? When you see something like this, what's happening is there's a lot of bullish momentum there, but it's very much overbought. So a lot of little blips like this are trying to unload their positions, and get in a position to better fuel the bullish movement. That's kind of what's happening here. Excuse me. That's kind of what's happening here, where as we're eventually iterating up to break this sequence in some manner, whether it's to the downside or the upside, we're waiting for enough unloading of position value to happen where a more abrupt transaction can take place. Now, if it happens to the upside again, we're still in sequence, and all we do here is instead of going same anchor, new high, we're now looking at new high to high. So again, we'd take the top end of this leg that broke the sequence and we look up. And in this case, we're observational again here. And we do this whole thing over again. And again, similar to the downside, where if we come back down here, we test this zone, we then blow up past it. Our new observational high to high is from here to here. So that's a primer on high to high. And this will work the exact same with low to low. And just so that we're not sliding it and so you can visualize it, let's take a look. So low to low, we get our move. This time, let's just assume that's a clean one. This time we blow straight past it immediately. So let's take our low to low. And now we've got an observational test set. That looks great. And so now we go same anchor, new low. And our first entry, our first valid, confident, strong entry, which can be done with quite literally just this on your chart. Doesn't need to have any other confluence. 33,507, I'm short. And then we run down to 32,892, and I'm out. I'm not going to try and hold this for the home run, because if the sequencing works, and that's why you give yourself the observational to kind of prove to yourself and establish a pattern to say, okay, well, we're in this sequencing event now that I can very confidently enter and exit at very defined points. Same anchor, new low, and then again, we come back up and fill 33,415, and I'm short. I get out at 32,666, but we blow through our take profit. So, new low anchor to a new low. Observational starts again. And it'll take some practice. Right now, I spent some time this morning trying to find opportunities in the current market to highlight this. And it's been so erratic and not pattern driven that there's nothing right now. Hence why I'm doing it all via just via trend lines. But I will later in the course, there will be a section that kind of pieces everything together and shows examples. I will be adding to that pretty consistently. So go back there and go back to that section in the end once you've completed the course and find some examples of this happening. I will add those and record those as I notice them happening in the market so that we can better identify them in real time.